If you can't get enough supply chain, join us in Orlando for GS1 Connect, one of the leading supply chain conferences where you can connect with colleagues, interact with industry experts, tap into the latest best practices, and discover how to use data most efficiently to optimize your operations and grow your business. Be one of our over 200 attending companies and engage with over 120 speakers and over 20 trading partner roundtables to expand your knowledge on supply chain management best practices. Check out the agenda to learn more about our keynote speakers and sessions. We hope to see you there.
When you think about the importance of having accurate and consistent data, it's really at the foundation of any of the benefits that GS1 enables for the supply chain. It could be product traceability, right? So I want to be able to understand how a product has moved from the manufacturer to the warehouse to the receiving dock to the store shelf. For sustainability, right? I want to be able to understand the materials that went into creating a product because I want to understand the recyclability of it. I want to understand whether the material has been ethically sourced, locally sourced. For inventory management, right? So if I'm a retailer, making sure that I have the right products in stock to meet the consumer demand, making sure that it goes beep at point of sale, engaging the consumer, right? And giving the consumer the ability to access additional sources of data like nutritional information. All of those examples depend upon accurate information about products and locations. And accurate product and location information enables trust.
Hello and welcome to the Next Level Supply Chain with GS1 US, a podcast in which we explore the mind-bending world of global supply chains, covering topics such as automation, innovation, unique identity, and more. I'm your co-host, Reid.
And I'm Liz.
And welcome to the show. Hello, everyone. I hope that you're having a great day. Today's guest is one of our own. We have the Vice President of Product Management with us. Jess is joining us today to talk about Data Hub. It's a product SaaS offering that we actually have. And if you've ever wondered, how do I create GTINs, manage them, I have 100,000 of them, or 200,000, or 10, or 10,000, or if I wanted to validate a GTIN, it's one of my own, or it's actually a product from someone else. I want to make sure the product is what the product says it is, and it's coming from the company that I thought it was coming from. Data Hub helps you do that. So without any further ado, let's jump right into the conversation.
Jess, welcome to the show. We are so excited to have you. We talk all about Data Hub on our podcast and all the information that it can give. Before we get started and jump in, tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at GS1 US.
Sure. Jess Urriola. I'm the Vice President of Product Management at GS1 US. I lead a team of product managers who support our business applications and customer applications. Our business apps are some of our back office tools like our CRM system and our finance system. And our customer apps, our customer facing tools, the main ones are our e-commerce platform, the GS1 store, and our data services platform, which we know as Data Hub. Been with GS1 US for a little over a year now. And I've spent the majority of my career working on B2B SaaS platforms at companies such as ADP and Dun & Bradstreet.
Excellent. We're glad that you can carve out some time with us here today, Jess. And so for some of the viewers or listeners that aren't aware of what Data Hub is, what is Data Hub? Why and when should we use it?
So Data Hub is a SaaS platform that supports data sharing between brand owners and the trading partners. Brand owners use the Data Hub Create Manage module to assign GS1 identifier numbers to products or locations. They can enter and update product and location data, and they can even use the platform to create UPC barcodes. Brand owners can create individual identifiers through the Data Hub user interface, and that's typically leveraged by smaller businesses, whereas larger brands upload identifiers in bulk, or they would integrate with our API. And trading partners, such as retailers, wholesalers, marketplaces, and others, use the Data Hub View Use module to query product and location identifiers via the user interface, file export, or API. And folks can learn more about subscribing to Data Hub on the GS1 store at gs1us.org.
You talked about two sides of this. It's kind of like a Data Hub inside, right? Where we're creating our UPCs and stuff, and a Data Hub outside. Why would people use Data Hub out?
Yeah. Well, when brands share their product information with GS1 US through Data Hub, The information gets uploaded to the GS1 registry platform. We call it the GRP. And the GRP is a global registry that consists of nearly 500 million records. And it's available to trading partners in over 110 GS1 member organizations around the world. So whether a brand owner is a mom and pop, or if they're a global brand, having their product information in the GS1 registry allows any trading partner anywhere in the world to authenticate core product attributes. And when we talk about core product attributes, we mean the identifier, the GTIN, Global Trade Item Number, the company name, the brand name, and product description. There's other attributes that Data Hub stores. They can store net content, target market, global product classification. But our retail partners have told us that the core attributes are most relevant to support product authentication. This product authentication helps retailers, especially the online retailers and marketplaces, to combat GTIN misuse. So some examples of GTIN misuse would be GTIN hijacking. So that's when the same GTIN is applied to multiple products, or GTIN duplication, which is the same product having different GTINs in different listings.
Well, what happens is you could have a product and you have a second or third or fourth generation of the same product and new people, oh, we need more GTINs to kind of get out there. We have to apply more. And do we need a new one? So they just created one. And do people use Data Hub to help manage their GTIN existence?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the large brand owners can leverage the Create Manage module to create new GTINs, either directly through the UI, or what some of the larger brands will often do is they may be managing creation of GTINs in a separate system. It could be their own in-house product information management system. Then they may be sharing that information through data pools. And the data pools support a much broader depth and breadth of product data coverage, which is still important to trading partners, but their ability to then share that information back into Data Hub, because Data Hub is uniquely positioned to provide that authentication to tie the product identifier, the GTIN, back to the license prefix holder. And that is really something that's unique to us. So in order to have any type of an identifier, a brand must have a license prefix through GS1. So only through Data Hub can you confidently get that validation with the identifier tying back to the owner of the identifier through that license prefix. And that's what some of the larger retailers have told us they're looking for, to have that confidence that, in fact, the identifier does, in fact, belong to the entity that is claiming to own it.
So it really improves the trust that the data that they're getting is accurate. The products that they have a prefix or a GTIN that is accurately assigned to them, and it's not some rogue organization that's selling product on their behalf or pretending to be somebody else.
Exactly right. When you think about the importance of having accurate and consistent data, it's really at the foundation of any of the benefits that GS1 enables for the supply chain. You know, what it could be product traceability, right? So I want to be able to understand how a product has moved from the manufacturer to the warehouse to the receiving dock to the store shelf. For sustainability, right? I want to be able to understand the materials that went into creating a product because I want to understand the recyclability of it. I want to understand whether the materials have been ethically sourced, locally sourced. For inventory management, right? So if I'm a retailer, making sure that I have the right products in stock to meet the consumer demand, making sure that it goes beep at point of sale, engaging the consumer, right? And giving the consumer the ability to access additional sources of data like nutritional information. All of those examples depend upon accurate information about products and locations. And accurate product and location information enables trust, as you said. Trust is ultimately foundational to supporting all that and ultimately to supporting supply chain efficiency.
I mean, Reid, this is what we keep talking about that you want me to stop talking about sometimes, is that super important data quality and having that foundation to start from. And Data Hub can help facilitate that.
Yeah, and we started to get into what I would say GS1 speak, prefix and GTINs. And so for like just regular people out there, what happens is when you become a member of GS1, and you get a prefix, which is kind of like, for a lack of a good analogy, it's like getting a surname. It's like, here's the name. With the surname, you create the full name, right, of all of your products behind it. So your prefix is kind of like that beginning of the number, but prefixes range in size too. And then you have like, what does your UPC size need to be? Like, so you have a GTIN 12 and a GTIN 14, and this is the number of digits that are in there. And unless I'm wrong, though, I thought that Data Hub was created to kind of help demystify all of that and create a foolproof way of creating the correct UPC and creating the right environment and then managing that environment, right? So if I have a prefix, for some folks that don't realize, you can buy a prefix that can handle 10 different GTINs or buy a prefix that can handle 100 different GTINs or 10,000 or 100,000. And these are all unique. Like you said, Jess, they're all unique for the trust factor to the company and to the product. And then that's they're never reused. It's not like, oh, this product has been retired and we're going to reuse this number. It's like a license plate to a car. It's not reused. It is deregistered and registered and gone through it that way. Am I off the mark there on this, or is that?
Spot on. And so when you talk about the smaller prefix license holders, right, typically your smaller companies, could be your mom and pop shops. And like any small business, they're just looking to try to chase their dream and grow their business. They don't really understand the nuances of how to properly construct an identifier and what are the associated attributes to make sure that you're assigning it correctly. But that's where Data Hub can come in, because it has a very intuitive workflow that as a user comes in, walks the user step by step through the process of entering the product name, the description, the net content, and following the GS1 standards in each step of the process to make sure that it's being enumerated correctly. Whereas some of our global brands who may be licensing prefixes in blocks of 10,000 or even 100,000, they have a whole team dedicated to just supporting that. They don't necessarily need the Data Hub tool to enumerate the identifiers. But where there's still value to the market is in making sure that that data is still coming back into the Data Hub database and ultimately to the global registry platform, because the retailers, in order to support that core product authentication use case, still need to see the product data within our platform so that they can match the GTIN back to the license holder. And that's only possible when all brands, regardless of size, are sharing their information back into Data Hub. And so one of the projects that we're actively pursuing now is talking to some of our larger data pool partners to try to raise awareness back to the brand owners as they're operating within the data pools around the benefit of publishing their information to GS1. So just as they are publishing regularly to their trading partners, the Walmarts and the Targets and the Krogers and the Amazons of the world, make sure you're also including GS1 as part of that recipient list. And then we'll seamlessly be able to take in that data and then updates to that data over time, so that brand owners don't have to go to two places, right? They have that integration within the data pool. It's automatically coming to us, and then we're in a position to be able to support that product authentication use case for the retail partners.
That connected the dots for me and really helped me pull it together, because like you said, you have large companies that have their own systems and they're doing it internally. Then you have smaller companies, and let's just be honest, everybody knows that somebody out there has a backup spreadsheet where they're using it all as well. But really it comes down to that GRP that you talked about as well, right? And it's for that global aspect. And GRP is the global...
It's the GS1 registry platform, but it is a global platform.
Right. So this is where if you start to register your product here in the United States, or if you created a product in Germany or in Mexico, and then it's just going up and everyone will have access to it.
Right. So anytime anybody queries a GTIN from Data Hub, it will query initially the local database, the US database. And if it doesn't find the record there, then it's going up to the global database. So you're always getting the ability to query all the records within the entire GS1 network.
We're really kind of getting into the weeds here, but it really is, like, for the lack of a better analogy, it's a license plate for your product. And for everyone to kind of have this global aspect and not have fraudulent environments and really maintaining the authenticity. Am I mistaken by that, or is that's what we're really providing?
Spot on. That is the core value that we can drive in the market right now, is around that core product authentication, right? We're not trying to replicate what the data pools are doing or what other systems may be doing. They have their place, and that breadth and depth of data, we don't really want to play there. We want to really focus in on the core data attributes associated with the product to support that core product authentication.
And you touched on something earlier about location. So we've been talking a lot about product And I know we're running out of time, so I just didn't want to not touch on the global location number or the importance of location within Data Hub, especially as we start talking about different regulations, whether it be the Drug Supply Chain Security Act or Food Safety Modernization Act Rule 204. Can you just dive a little bit deeper into how Data Hub can help identify locations and create GLN?
Yeah, GLN, global location number, it's another GS1 identifier. And as you mentioned, it's gotten a strong adoption within the healthcare space, and it's growing within the food space. And it supports that use case around traceability, right? So particularly in the healthcare space with the Drug Supply Chain Act, there's a need to understand as drugs move from the manufacturer's site to the warehouses, to the pharmacies, or to the hospitals, and then even locations within the hospitals, you want to be able to track that flow, and you do that by assigning location numbers to each of those unique locations. And it can be granular, like I said. So even you can have a GLN for a hospital, but then even within the hospital, you can have GLNs for different storage facilities within the hospital. So you can really get granular and understand exactly where the specific drugs are stored. And so it helps us stay compliant from a healthcare perspective. And similarly with the Food Safety Modernization Act, FSMA 204, being able to trace food from the source, from the actual farmer field to shipping to packaging, and then ultimately to the storefront. Obviously, if there's ever any sort of foodborne illness and something needs to be recalled, to be able to trace it back to exactly where it came from becomes incredibly important. And that's where GLNs can help.
Yeah. And you can get your GLNs from your prefix as well, right? Like you don't have to buy extra. You buy a prefix, you're getting GTINs, you're getting GLNs in the same quantities as you move along. So I always remind people, I'm like, GS1 really fundamentally does three things. We identify companies, we identify things, your products, and we identify locations. And it really comes into play with the supply chain. And so Data Hub, as you said, the view use comes when I purchase a prefix, I get access to that free of charge.
Well, I get access to create manage free of charge when I purchase the prefix. So I can create GTINs, I can create GLNs. If I want to query the database, that's where the view use module comes in. I have to sign up for a view use subscription. And I don't have to be a licensed prefix holder to access view use. We've got universities that are subscribed to our view use because they want to be able to query our database and use that as an input for some other data analysis or some other studies that they're doing. But the classic use case for us would be, retailers primarily, right? Or wholesalers who want to be able to validate the products that they're receiving and the GTINs associated with those products that in fact they do match what we have within our database.
Got it. And you mentioned, so on this data outside, there's kind of three ways to get access. I thought I heard you say web interface.
Yep.
And then an export.
File export.
Right. And then an API.
Or API, correct. And the API, you can access it for companies, for locations, and for products themselves.
Awesome. Jess, I'm glad that you had the time to carve out and drop a little bit of knowledge on us here. Liz, did you want to ask him? He's a tech guy.
I mean, I have to. So, Jess, we end our podcasts with a question for our guests. So, today, personally or in your work life, what is your favorite technology that you're using right now?
I'm so addicted to my iPhone. I need to get back into the habit of using my calorie counter app because in my year plus at GS1, I've conservatively put on 20 pounds. So that's one of my goals for 24 is to get back down to pre-GS1 weight. And there's some good apps that I've used before on the phone that if I'm disciplined about it, make me very mindful of what I'm putting in my mouth every day. So that's probably one of the ones I need to get closer to.
Excellent. Well, thank you again. And if anyone wants to find out more information about Data Hub, they can go to gs1us.org.
gs1us.org. And we have a couple of pages on Data Hub that talk a little bit more about the specific use cases and some of the key personas that can benefit from using it. So yeah, please check it out.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Next Level Supply Chain with GS1 US. If you enjoyed today's show, please subscribe to our feed and explore more great episodes wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to share and follow us on social media. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.